Good evening. The Concord Township Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for January 8th, 2025 is now in session. I would like to introduce the board. To my far left is Skip Sweeney and Ashley Garkar. I'm Ivan Valentik. To my right is Davey Rowan and Todd Goling. And our far right is Heather Freeman, our zoning inspector. Under the advice of our legal counsel, we ask that anyone speaking tonight must be sworn in. If you plan on speaking, please stand and raise your right hand. Mike, do you want to stand just in case for me? Appreciate it. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. This evening, when presenting your case or commenting, please come to the microphone and state your name and address and confirm that you've been sworn in. Heather, were the legal notices published in a timely manner?
Yes, they were.
Okay. Tonight we have one variance application, but we have two variance requests. A 3-vote majority is required to either approve or deny each variance request. First is variance application 2024-165. Mr. Andrew Solonen is requesting a variance from section 6.01B2C to permit poultry husbandry to be located on a property less than 1 acre in size. Then there's a second variance, which is requested from section 6.01B2C I3 to allow the chicken coop to be located less than 1 foot from the side lot line and 8 feet from the rear property line in lieu of the minimum required 25-foot clearance. This is for the property located at 11252 Gold Road, also known as permanent parcel number 08-A-012-0-000-043-0. Heather, can you give us just a quick summary?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. Brian, I did have a slide. Do you mind putting that on to me? Thank you. Okay, so the property Thank you. So on the screen over here is just a location map outlining the property in red there. It's located at the northwest corner of Girdled and Orchard Road. The property is currently zoned R1 residential district and it contains approximately 0.87 acres of land. It's currently developed with a single-family dwelling with an attached 2-car garage, which was built in 2021. The property also has a partially fenced-in yard, above-ground swimming pool, shed, and a chicken coop. As proposed, the applicant is seeking a variance to allow poultry husbandry, the raising of chickens, on their property. A second variance is also requested to allow for the existing 48-square-foot accessory building that will be used as a chicken coop to remain on the property in its current location. The accessory building is located less than 1 foot from the west property line, 8 feet from the north property line. And actually, if we go to the next slide, Brian, thank you. The map on the right shows the location of it, identified in orange there in the top left corner of the property. Like as I stated, 8 feet from the rear property line, about 150 feet from the east or the right property line, and 255 feet back from the south or the front property line. The image on the left is a picture that was provided by the applicant showing what it currently looks like. Pursuant to section 601B2C, the minimum lot size required in order to have poultry chickens on a property is at least an acre, is greater than an acre. And additionally, 601B2C III requires that the accessory building for the poultry has to be at least 25 feet away from the side or rear property line. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Good evening.
Evening.
Could you again state your name, address, and confirm you've been sworn in?
Yeah, my name is Andrew Salonen. I'm the property owner at 11251 Girdled Road, and I have been sworn in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good evening. Again, I should give you the summary of what I'm requesting here. Looking to retain the accessory building that I put together to serve as a chicken coop, to house just a minimum number of chickens to be able to provide eggs for my family. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read the letter that I had provided. I'll just touch on a couple of highlights. The structure doesn't impede in any way on my neighbor's property. Both of my neighbors to the north and to the west have no issues with the structure as it sits. It's tucked pretty far back into the wooded area there, and really can barely be seen by any of the road there. I took my time to make it look nice and match kind of the shed structure that I received the variance approval for being inside the 10-foot setback last year. Within the property kind of gives me minimal locations with the sloping backyard and it being a corner lot. I was actually under the understanding I had over an acre when I was putting this thing together, not realizing that with the corner lot and the setback from the road that I actually don't get to count that acreage, that put me under the 1 acre. The intent for the coop again is just to be able to provide eggs for my family. My wife has a bit of a medical condition that really restricts her diet, so we were hoping to be able to control what the chickens were being fed, be able to provide appropriate diet for her. Other than that, I think everything else has been explained. Hopefully you had an opportunity to review all the packets. I did my best to provide 365 pictures of where the structure currently sits.
Do you currently have chickens in the coop?
I do not.
How many chickens are you thinking about
No, we're going to go with no more than 10.
No more than 10. And then you have the letters of support from the neighbors?
I did. I included those in my packet.
Yeah. I just want to be clear, are they supporting the coop or are they supporting the coop and the chickens?
They're supporting the coop and the chickens.
Okay,
100%.
because it wasn't as clear in the
Okay.
photo. So, appreciate
Yeah, they're absolutely okay with it.
Okay. Did you know about the restrictions before you went and built the shed? Because this happens to us actually this board quite a bit where it's after the fact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, admittedly, and I do apologize, I did take for granted the fact that you did approve my variance for the shed on the same property line, and that I had gotten my approvals from my neighbors and that it was relatively quite small and barely the height of the fence line itself. So the setback, certainly, the fact that I thought I had well over an acre when I was putting this thing together, I did take the time to check on that. It wasn't until later that I was informed that I actually didn't have an acre.
Heather, is that because the right-of-way doesn't count in that acre?
Correct. The definition of lot does not include the area in the road right away, the public
Okay.
right away.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is where?
Along both Orchard and Girdles Road.
It's like half Orchard and half a Girdle if you follow the lot line here. So it looks like he owns some of the road.
Yeah, if you, the map
So
that was
that
provided.
doesn't count.
Correct, because this is public right away.
The
You're not
roadway
taxed
doesn't
on.
count.
Yeah, it's public right away. It's used for a public
Was it
purpose.
like 30 feet from the center line?
Orchard Road is a 40-foot right away, so it'd be 25 feet back, or 20 feet back from the center line, and Girdles is 60, so it's 30 feet back from the center.
But
of
he's paying
Girdles.
taxes on that.
No, sir, no.
Okay.
Well, I actually, I don't want to state, I don't think so. Maybe legal can, yeah.
Just curious.
You made a statement about applying for a shed, and then that was approved.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
I don't, Heather, can you speak more on the shed that was approved?
No, I think he was referring to, he was already in front of this board for a variance for the another shed.
Correct, last year.
Because Mr. Valencic asked if he was aware of the regulations. He stated, yes, I was, because I did come back in front of you to get the variance for the shed. I'll
Shed
let
was
you
last
finish.
year.
Yeah.
So the shed is. Did you ever build the shed?
The shed's actually, it's pictured, I believe, in one of the lists I provided just to show that I kind of matched the aesthetic, and
Next to the pool?
it's to the north of the pool, about 40 feet. It's on the same lot line as the coop there.
So we're
I know there's a
also
picture
adding
in
a
here.
second building.
No,
Yes, that's where I'm.
there's no
Oh, I
addition-
see.
no
Yeah.
additional buildings being added. I'm seeking approval to retain that small building in the corner to the north of.
Ashley, real quick. So there's two correct me if I'm wrong. There is two structures. There's a shed and a chicken coop is a second structure, but the chicken coop is allowed to be on the property if we allow the use of the chickens. Correct. So he's allowed to have two structures if we allow the use of poultry.
Yes, because under section 601, or under section 602, if you meet that minimum acreage requirement in the R1 district and you're only 1 acre, you are permitted to have one building for ag use. So that was my interpretation on that. So,
So
if
that's
you-
why
yeah.
there is no variance request for a second structure on the building, because if we allow the use of poultry, that he's allowed to have the structure. If he does not, I'm going down the rabbit hole, legal counsel could correct me, if we do not approve the use of poultry on the property, then he would be in violation of having two structures on the property.
And this previously allowed shed, right? That sits directly on the property line, the side lot line.
Correct, it's
Okay.
within a foot of that property
Okay.
line. That's why I was here last year for that variance.
Right. Heather, can you clarify something
Sure,
for me?
I can try.
The rear lot setback is 25 feet, right?
For a building being used for animals under the agricultural use. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. What is the side lot setback?
Same
for that
25.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was 25 then something else or both 25.
Minimum 25 from both.
And you understand the request is for the setback is fairly significant, because you're going from essentially 25, which is required to 1.
I do understand that.
Yeah.
And I don't take that lightly. I recognize that that is a decent distance there. Limitations on the actual design of the property, the mound for the septic is quite large. Not to mention just the pretty large grade of the backyard property really does limit my options. That was truly the only kind of flat area in the backyard that I really had that wasn't going to be, frankly, an eyesore close to Orchard.
Go ahead.
Is a chicken coop allowed? A chicken coop is allowed on 1 acre or more. You don't even have to get a permit or a variance for that, do you? A chicken coop.
If your lot's greater than 1 acre,
1 acre or greater.
greater than 1 acre is the way it's worded.
Okay. All right.
Great. So 1.01,
0,
whatever. Yeah, right. And you're located in an area where the township regulates agricultural uses.
And this is
Yes.
okay.
Then you still have to pull a zoning permit for the building for the animals, and it shall comply with the minimum setbacks that are established.
Right.
The 25 feet from side, rear, and a minimum of 7
So
feet
if he
from
decided to locate this 25 feet from the side lot, 25 feet from the rear lot, all he would need to do is pull a permit.
No, he does not meet the minimum
It's over an
acreage.
Oh, so we still have the under 1 acre problem.
So we have two
Yes.
variances to prove.
Right.
The poultry, because it's under an acre,
Right.
and then the setback situation.
But your point is, if it were 1.001 acres and he followed the setbacks, then there
Then
would
it'd
be
be
nothing.
fine.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
right.
I just want to get it
Yes.
straight in my head here
Yeah.
on how this works.
And with an acre, he where it is now, he'd still have to get the variance.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
We've had applicants that have explored this option where they were short acreage, and they've looked at purchasing neighboring property so they can get, lumped in a different category for zoning. Did you look at getting I think it was 1.8 acres, 0.1, yeah, right, 0.18 acres? Did you look into that? at
Yeah,
all?
I talked to Chris Lazuka about the potential if this wasn't to work out to have to purchase land from him, and he was absolutely open to that to make that happen, but he didn't want to have to do that because he actually plans on building a chicken coop himself.
Oh, really?
Yes, along his
Make sure
He's
he
got
knows.
like 5 acres, right?
yeah, I'll make
Yeah,
sure he
he's got
knows
a
the
lot
rules
there.
inside and out. He
Yeah,
certainly
he'll be
will
able
learn
to-
from
yeah.
me. So
I want to get the
hope
chicken
so that
coop
we
too.
don't have to go that route.
A question with this disapproved application, which Heather, you might be able to answer this, but this also might be not you, because I don't know this is your signature. It says it requires a minimum of 2 acre lot for a size for dairy and animals. The bottom where it says disapproved.
I think that's a 1. Yeah.
That's supposed to be a 1?
That's a 1.
Okay,
Where
so
are you?
I'm reading right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
It
just,
is
I
a
think
1.
the copy of
Yeah,
it made it look
it could look like
yeah.
it too,
Okay,
though.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify of where this 1 and 2 possibly. Yeah, it's just my eyes. Okay, that makes me feel better.
Did you guys build this house, or did you buy the house?
We bought it from the builder. Yeah.
So would you be open to, would you be open to restrictions that we put onto the conditions of the approval of the variance request, such as, one restriction could be that the poultry use on this property would be tied to you and your family owning that property. So with the thought being that if you sell the house, the next person automatically can't use the yard for poultry. Would you be open to something like that?
That makes complete sense to me. I wouldn't have any issue with that.
Okay, and would you be open, you said 10 chickens, would you be even open, and we haven't talked about it, I'm just throwing ideas, would you be open to restricting like the number of chickens like to 10 or something like that, we kind of, so it's capped at some amount?
Yeah, I think whatever that a reasonable number is. I haven't done as much research on what is going to be required to have like a daily, number of appropriate eggs for a 4-person family. I can't imagine that's any more than maybe 12 to 15 at some point, but I threw 10 as an arbitrary number out there, just indicating that it's going to be low. It's always going to be under 20. I don't know. I haven't done enough research to figure out exactly the number between like 10 and 15 in there, somewhere in there.
I think a follow-up question of a potential, so we know what we can talk about of restrictions or not, is do you plan on getting a rooster, and would you be willing to not have a rooster?
You can absolutely put no rooster on there. I will not have a rooster. I personally will not have a rooster.
Okay. And also, do you plan on letting them just free run, or are they going to be staying in the coop in the cage that you're making?
They're going to stay inside the enclosed area.
Right, so you will not be letting them out of the caged area.
I have a little like steel chute that I'm going to allow them to be able to feed on the grass on the back side of the mountain.
Okay.
That's the extent of it.
Okay,
But
but
they're always
they
going to be
will-
enclosed.
Okay.
Any other questions from you two? David, Todd, any questions?
So the auditor has this property at 1.09 acres.
Yep.
Which I'm totally confused on. It's like, what number do we go on? Do we go on what the auditor says? Or like, that's, and
I've already made that
Oh, I know, but
determination,
I'm
yeah.
wondering-
If you look at the legal
Apparently.
description of
But
the property.
I can see
yeah.
where the confusion
Yeah.
would come from. And do you know that 10 chickens in their prime can lay up to 2,500 eggs a year?
I believe that.
That's a lot of eggs.
A lot of
More
eggs
in,
would
more
take
in
chickens.
summer, less in winter.
Yeah,
I think it's a
yeah.
seasonal thing, from my understanding.
Yeah.
I've been learning from my friends who have chickens, and they have somewhere in that 10 to like 20 range for their family.
That's a lot of eggs.
But Todd, I mean, the definition of a lot excludes that right away. So that's what I understand where the confusion kind of comes from also, but it is point, what is it,
8688.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
0.13 acres, give or take.
So that's what it is. So
Wow, that's bananas.
Were you aware of that?
I was not. I went to the
Yeah.
auditor's website to
I don't know
verify
how you
when
could be.
I had no idea until I was
we've run into this before. So.
And I think if we look at a lot of the ones that we do see, it's corner lots because you've
Yeah.
got the 2 frontages, so now you've got, you have a lot less or a lot more right away. So I don't know if it would have changed if it were.
But again, we've said this before, we recommend that all residents, if they have questions on any zoning issues and they need to get permits, if you come in and talk to Heather or Mike, they probably might have even caught that and pointed that out to you ahead of time, and we wouldn't be in this situation. They probably would have caught, well, you're less than an acre and it's not allowed. So, you guys have anything else?
Anything else?
No?
No further questions, ma'am?
Okay, please be seated.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here this evening speaking for or against this appeal that would like to come up? If there's no further questions, the public hearing for application 2024-165 is now closed to the public. We're gonna do these in 2 discussions, okay? So can I first get a motion to approve variance 2024-165? I guess the first variance request for the permit to allow poultry husbandry on the property.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion.
Yeah. I know it stays on the auditor site 1.09, and I understand that confusion. of just looking at what you would think go to the auditors. I understand that very much. But we have rules that are, you have to be above an acre. And the fact that there was a conversation that he could possibly purchase that little bit from his neighbor makes me really want to say, let's look into that option before we approve this at all. Kind of more push for that, because I, in my opinion, sets a very negative precedent. I know there were issues with, it has been brought up from other people about chickens on less than an acre, and by us approving this, I feel like there are going to be 12 other people coming in asking for chickens for less than an acre, when there is a potentially solvable way of going around this, which is purchasing that small little strip, where I feel for the applicant that the auditor site says one thing, but our rules state it differently a little bit, the way you measure your property line. But I just feel like this is a very large can of worms if we approve it, of why did this one get approved but the other person is not getting approved that's under an acre. And he does have an option to purchase a small little sliver to give us the 1 acre.
Versus someone who's boxed in and has no option.
Yes, he has the option to do it, and I'm nervous that someone who has,
I would disagree that he has the option. He's investigated the option, but it's not definite.
it's not definite, but it has not been turned down, where I think all options should be exhausted before we would approve such a thing. I think if it was 100% turned down and he was able to prove I can't do it because of X, Y, and Z, okay, we'd be on a different conversation, but there seems to be a probability, because when he talked to the neighbor, he said, yeah, there's a chance. He didn't say absolutely no.
I think we've also had somebody come in and do that before, where they did purchase the land and then found out after they purchased it, they still didn't purchase enough. So that would be a concern.
Well, he's here now, so I have a very
No,
strong gut feeling
I'm
he
just
would
saying, though, that, like,
make sure to purchase
in
the
the
correct
past,
amount.
we've had other people do the same thing, thinking they were doing the right thing, and ran into the same issue. So,
I mean, I agree, and that's kind of why I started asking about the restrictions, because I think I feel like if we're gonna put this up to a vote, I think we should, regardless of how we vote, add some restrictions to it. One of the things I'm considering when I'm looking at this too is the adjacent properties. I know if it was in more of a neighborhood and it was about an acre or just short, and you're doing this kind of activity, is another factor I guess I'm weighing also when considering the use variance or area variance.
I think something also with that though, and Heather might be an answer for you, because I remember there was a couple emails that went past, and it might have been on my time when I was on zoning commissions instead of zoning appeals. Did anything go with that? Did the trustees ever talk about chickens on less than an acre, or did it? I just remember my mind was sparked. It was about a year ago, and my mind, I was sparked by it because there was actually somebody in my neighborhood that was asking for chickens,
Right.
and then had brought it up to, I think, commissions asking them to change the rules.
So,
Did anything ever happen with that?
Yeah, so I do recall the request of some residents that came in front of the zoning commission. They actually attended a zoning commission meeting requesting that the board look into changing the requirements for chickens. We did some research on that. I think we had a meeting or two discussing it, and ultimately the zoning commission decided that they did not want to change the rules and decrease the acreage. And they thought that the 1 acre was appropriate.
Do you remember off the top of your head why they thought not to go less than 1 acre?
There were lots of reasons.
Okay.
I
think that
could not summarize those
I think
correctly.
that's the meeting. They also stated that we're more restrictive than South Euclid on chickens, which I think is odd.
I mean, we 100% are more strict.
They are?
I know people who have 1/4 acre lots that have them in
We're more
South
restrictive
Euclid,
than
but
South Euclid.
that's fine.
So
That's comical.
it is.
Okay, nice.
We've had a lot of variances that involve corner lots. And I think that if there was ever a situation to allow a 1 acre, the first sale, Zillow lists this, and the auditor lists it at 1.06. I mean, I don't know if he's paying taxes on 1.06 and, or not. I got a feeling he is. With the other cases that we've ruled on corner lots, we've invariably allowed the variances. I think most of them we've allowed for various different reasons. But one of those reasons was, a main reason was the corner lot. And I think that this is consistent with those decisions. I don't think it's going to open up a floodgate, because I think that that's pretty significant. The corner lot discrepancy is pretty significant here.
Well, I also, to your point though, I think, and I'm agreeing with you that I think a lot of people don't understand the auditor site versus the right of way.
Right.
And I think it feels deceptive that it is that way.
Well, I didn't want to go that far,
No,
but
I
I
think
don't
it is.
disagree with you.
But
I also think there's a difference.
In any
between
event,
it's not, but it was
We've-
insignificant. It's not like we're asking for half an acre here.
Right. The point I'm trying to make is, I think that that if we rule, and we're just ruling on the
Chickens right
on
now.
the
Chickens
coop,
at this
right?
We're ruling on the chickens right now,
Right, the
not
coop,
the coop. No.
or the chickens.
The chickens.
Not the
Which-
setback.
Right,
I
not
think
the
the-
setback, but the coop.
The
No,
use.
no.
Would be the use.
The use of the coop.
Nope.
No,
As a
no.
The use of the property. to
Having
have
chickens on the
poultry
property are no
husbandry,
chickens.
Which is a
Okay,
use variance.
regardless of where they are.
Correct. It's just
Okay.
chickens is all we're talking about. And
All
I
right.
think chickens is different than 95%, throwing that number out there. The majority of the setbacks that we have approved that are corner lots are for buildings.
Right.
We are talking about chickens, and I don't think chickens and buildings are very comparable. I would
well-
agree with you if we were just talking about the building, but we're not talking about the
Right.
building. We're talking about chickens.
Well, okay, then let's assume the floodgates are open and everybody comes in and wants chicken coop. I think that's great. Okay, I don't see that as a problem in this world. So, anyway, as to that, that's my reasoning for leaning towards approving this
the chickens.
variance. Yes.
Would you want to see any restrictions on it? Or
I don't know why that should be necessary. I think I know a number of people who own chickens, and it's very self-regulating. They don't seem to be, having dozens and dozens of chickens because they don't want the hassle. They want to get what they need, and they like it that way. They don't want to be overrun by them, I don't think.
Todd or Davey?
I mean, if
I
that's
just
going to be a deal breaker, then yeah.
Well, I guess my question would be: are there any county or state regulations on chickens that would impact that? I don't know the answer to that.
Just when cooking them.
Yeah.
Would you want to vote as is, or would you want to apply any restrictions?
I'm okay with the restricting the number of chickens. I'd be okay with that.
Would you be okay with restricting it to them as the property owner? So the next
Fine with that
person
as well.
would you?
it doesn't carry over.
And it doesn't carry over
Right.
to the next person. Ashley, would you want to add any restrictions, including your rooster?
I mean, I would say definitely the rooster. But I very much so struggle with or without restrictions. The fact that this has been brought up to zoning commissions about being less than an acre, with or without restrictions, I have a lot of issues
Understood. Yeah,
with it because it's so. I mean, I think even with restrictions,
you can still.
I
vote.
still think I'm voting
Yeah,
against it.
yeah.
That the restrictions aren't going to sway my opinion, because the zoning commission has already talked about under the acre, and there is that option that has not been exhausted yet of purchasing more land to just avoid this in general. That's my sticking point, is that option has not been exhausted.
I was just noodling, just given the opportunity, table it, given the opportunity, talk to Mr. Lazuka, see if there is an option for that.
It seems like he didn't deny it.
because the problem goes away with 0.13 acres.
Or what, I mean, I would say make sure that the applicant talks to, I think, Heather to make sure he does purchase the correct amount and we don't get into an issue the next time. Make sure that's discussed properly of how much he absolutely needs and is there a setback on the next. Like, I don't want, if he needs whatever that math is, but there's still a setback, make sure he does get what he needs to have it. But the fact this was already discussed by zoning commission, I'm really struggling. And we have not exhausted all options. Because this is, I'm very nervous of a can of worms with a lot of people with chickens. And there's a reason that I don't understand or don't know.
But that's why we're here. I mean, if we're convinced after applying the factors that a departure from that requirement that they want, then it's okay. And we do that every day, every week, every month on a case-by-case basis.
I agree with that. But we
Yeah.
haven't exhausted all options, and I also don't see how there's a hardship by not having eggs in your yard.
Then
I don't get me wrong, I would love to have chickens, and I would love to have eggs and fresh eggs and chickens on my property. I would love that. But I don't see, and it's knowing that we have not exhausted all options, or the applicant has not exhausted all options. There are rules within their township, and I think if everything was exhausted, then maybe I'd feel differently.
Want
I
to
like
put it to a
chickens.
vote?
I like chickens.
Well, I just want to, Todd, would you want to add any restrictions to it or just vote as is?
no, I don't.
No restrictions?
Yeah, I'm not inclined.
Fine either way.
I mean, would we be willing as a board to table it to exhaust the option of purchasing the land before we approve or deny?
Is that something we can do, or just the?
Well, we'd have to
applicant
ask
or
the
us?
applicant or we could just vote and, and just hold the vote and see how it goes. I mean, based on the request here.
I mean, you can ask the applicant if he'd want a table and go forward with the vote, right? Or if we just vote, then we don't give him the option to table. I mean, it's really what you know.
I mean,
Yeah, who has to initiate that?
you both can. The applicant can, and so can the board. If you need additional information or you think that you need additional steps from the applicant, then you can table as well.
How does it, I'm okay with voting.
Me too.
I'm fine with voting.
I mean, but if you guys want him, and I'll ask the applicant to come back up if he wants a table. I'll ask him as well. But would you guys, would the board like to vote tonight as is on this variance, or would you?
I'll proceed however he wishes.
Okay.
Mr.
you
Chairman, before you ask the applicant to come up, if I can just point out, even if Mr. Solomon was able to successfully get the correct amount of acreage, he still needs a variance from the side yard setback.
Yes.
And that's not a shoo-in, that's not a guarantee, so he could go through the steps of purchasing additional land, and then who knows what happens with the setback variance.
Yeah, because that's
Right.
separate. This would only be for.
Just wanted to put that out.
So I would be, if the board would be up for it, perfectly willing to say, let's table the physical chicken aspect of this for purchasing, with us hopefully going to the next step of approving the setback aspect. So that way it's all, like, if the setback is approved and he gets the proper, the setback's not what I'm kind of arguing against. It's the concept of the chickens. I personally don't see an issue with the setback for the coop.
I think it's up to the applicant if he wants to table or not.
Agreed.
Yeah,
So
I think
just
the
to
board is
table
saying.
all of it.
I think the board's saying we vote unless the applicant wants to table it.
Right.
Okay, sir, can you come back up? So, a question for you is, would you like us to continue this evening with the variance request, or would you like us to table it to give you the opportunity to have further discussions with Mr. Lazuka about purchase, or one of your neighboring properties about, in regards to purchasing enough property that gives you an official more than 1 acre of property?
I'm inclined to say I prefer that it be voted on tonight.
Okay.
I just, financially, I'm not gonna be in the position to be able to buy that land. It's still tens of thousands of dollars to be able to purchase the 0.13-ish acres. I ran those numbers and it was over $20,000 to be able to buy that land, so I won't be able to do that.
Okay.
anyway. So even though Mr. Lazuka is potentially open to the idea, he does not want to do it. So I'd much rather there just be a vote on it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, appreciate that. So we're good to vote on the first one as is, correct? So, sorry. So the question is on the approval of variance application 2024-165. Mr. Andrew Solonen is requesting a variance from section 6.01B2C to permit poultry husbandry to be located on property less than 1 acre in size. Heather, please call the vote.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Goling?
Yes.
Mr. Rowan?
Yes.
Ms. Garkar?
No.
Mr. Valensik?
No. Your first variance has been approved. 3-2. Okay, next is second variance request from section 6.01B2C 3I to allow the chicken coop to be located less than 1 foot from the lot line, and 8 feet from the rear property line in lieu of the minimum required 25-foot clearance. This property is located again 11252 Girdled Road. Mr. Solon, do you want to come up again and just see if there's anything you want to add to the discussion on the side yard setback request?
Yeah, I think I pretty much touched on as far as my options for where that chicken coop could reside. It really is one of the only kind of flat locations. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind for my neighbors and for any folks kind of passing by. That area again is quite wooded back there, and it's also swampy, so like it really wouldn't be utilized by any of my neighbors for anything or myself, other than for something like this. Outside of that, I don't have anything else to add as far as why I chose that location as being the optimal spot for this chicken coop.
And then, so was this under construction when it was noticed? Because you knew it was in violation when you were building it, correct? Was it under construction or was it already done?
It was completed.
It was completed? Do you guys have a question?
Yeah, is this, what is that? Is that fence?
That's my rear fence.
Okay, so it is fenced in by this is Mr. Lazuka's?
Correct,
This is
that'd be
Mr.
north, yep.
DeFala's right there?
Yep. Yes, that's kind of about 8 feet or so from the northern property line. That fence that's running east to west there is what you're pointing at, and the kind of the rear wall of that coop completes that fence line essentially.
Okay, so all this is fenced in up to Orchard?
It stops just 8 feet. It just encloses the area where the chickens would
I see.
reside essentially.
Oh,
the
so
grassed area. They have like a
Just here.
correct.
It's not that part's not a wood fence. It's like some kind of mesh.
It's wood with a chicken wire.
That's why it looks like there's no. It's chicken wire.
I saw this from the street. This is a wood fence that's hiding the pool and all that, right?
Correct.
Does that wood fence go all the way around the property?
It does not. It goes all the way to the back northwest corner there, with the wall of the shed being part of that structure, as well as the coop being attached to it to complete the fence line essentially. I think there's a couple of pictures there kind of demonstrate that from both DeFala's property and.
Davey, any questions?
Just on the lot lines, I guess and this might be a question for Heather. Is the restriction that it have to be 25 feet from all lot lines?
A minimum of 25 feet from any side lot line and any rear lot line.
So
And then the
25,
front
20.
lot line setbacks is a minimum of 70 feet.
What was that one last part?
70 feet from front lot lines.
Okay. What about in relation to the house? Would it have any restrictions?
There's no minimum distance from the house. Yeah, you could essentially be right out your back door if you wanted.
Okay.
Heather, can you clarify being a side lot? Which one is the side and which is the back?
Well, being that which one is this?
Because he's a corner when you said,
Yeah,
but it's 25 feet for side or back, so it doesn't matter, does it?
correct. Yeah.
Right, same.
You need to say that out loud.
Regardless, yeah,
Thank you.
that's a good point.
And I think it sounds like that area would potentially be where your septic is, it sounds like.
Yeah, the septic mound runs all the way along that northern property line, just to the
almost see
east
it.
of the coop. Yeah, all the way to Orchard, essentially.
And is there a big tree in your backyard?
There's
Is that what I'm kind of seeing?
yeah, there's 2 maples in the backyard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from either one of you? Okay.
Did you promise eggs to either of your neighbors?
Of course, they already asked.
Okay. Thank you. Please be seated. Is there anyone else speaking for or against this appeal that'd like to come up? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve variance 2024-165, the second variance request from section 6.01B2C3I to allow the chicken coop to be located less than 1 foot from the side and rear yard setback?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. The only thing that bugs me, I'll just be frank, is that he knew he was in violation when he built it, of the setback. Hopefully he just went and did whatever he wanted, knowing that it was in violation. It's a significant request also, so. But that's all I got. Anyone else? Anything?
I mean, the request is, there's no question that it's substantial, but if you look at it in terms of the joint acceptance by both neighbors, and Mr. Lazuka has in the past been in front of this board, and he's no shrinking violet. And, the fact that he agrees is encouraging. The fact that the other neighbor, Sharon, I believe her name is, Sharon, her last name is? Defala, yeah. Mhm. The fact that both of them consent is very helpful. I think that dilutes the substantialness of the request, along with looking at the positioning in terms of the other lots. We're talking about a fairly decent expanse of land gross between those 3 lots, where the impairment doesn't seem to be potentially great at all. This coop with the enclosed area as well is seems like it's consistently, well, it's right next to the shed, right? It seems to be in line with this shed, and it would make sense that if there were any other structures that you would want to have that continuity along that line with that shed as well. that also influences my decision as well. So I think that those things are significant and enter into my judgment at least.
Okay.
I would agree with that. We've kind of gone down this path already with the shed placement. I've never had an issue with the location of the coop, just what is inside of it.
Okay. Guys good?
I'm good.
All right. With that, the question is approval for variance application 2024-165, the second request from section 6.01 B2C I3. Heather, please call the vote.
Mr. Goling,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes?
Ms. Garkar,
Yes.
Mr. Wan,
Yes.
Mr. Valencic.
Yes, your variance has been approved. Okay, we have, this evening, we do not have any meeting minutes. Our next meeting will be February 12th, 2025. The Concord Township Board of Zoning Appeals for January 2025 is now closed.
That mustache is so distracting.